Hi everyone and welcome to MiniTown Talks. We are so happy you're here, and MiniTown Talks is all about bringing parents, family and the community together. We are gonna have like mini phone conversations with inspiring people. And today's guest brings a little extra magic wherever he goes. Please join me in welcome Santa Dave.
That's me.
Santa Dave, thank you so much for being here. We are excited to get to know you, hear your story, and learn what it's really like to bring so much joy to children and families throughout the holiday season. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
First of all, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
And can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, so 90% of the time I'm just Dave. I'm actually an accountant for the vending machine company. So unfortunately, thankful to the MiniTown folks and Christine that got a little traffic, but I work on Long Island and I live in close to Hartford. So I'm there every week and I was coming from the hotel. So that's what I do for my regular day job. And then on the side, and when I can, I do the Santa Claus thing. And thankfully my work is very cool with it and they let me do Santa. And then obviously I have my wife, Courtney. Don't call her Mrs. Claus. She's not old enough to be Mrs. Claus. She tells me that all the time. If she does join me, she's usually dressed as an elf. And we have our golden retriever, Mando, that we love very much. He's our child. And we just love, traveling, and we go to the movies a lot. And, obviously with me working and being on the road all the time, we like to take trips together and spend time that way. So that's kind of what I do on the day-to-day. But, the other thing, obviously, we love holidays. Christmas being number one. We're the type of people that, Halloween starts on like August 31st, and that goes to November 1st, and then it's Christmas time, and we have a Christmas tree that stays up all year. So
that's very interesting. I think a lot of people, it's always wondering like, what Santa Claus do like for the entire year until it's Christmas. It's very interesting. So you're an accountant.
Yep.
How did you become Santa Claus?
So I kind of always wanted to be Santa. I've always loved Christmas. I remember being a kid, and my parents would come into my room and I'd be listening to Christmas music in August. And kind of my goal when I retire eventually is to just move to a Christmas tree farm and help people get Christmas trees. And once I started to be able to grow a beard in like high school, I kind of was like, maybe, Santa Claus is in the mix. And I didn't really start looking into Santa until I joined a fantasy baseball league. Very fun and weird story. About 10 years ago, I joined it, and it was online, and it was all people I had never met before except for the person who invited me to the league. And one of the players in the league is a Santa Claus in Seattle. So he's the Seattle Santa, Santa Dan. And so I found out he was Santa, and I just sort of started asking some questions on the side. Like, hey, what does it take to be Santa? How did you find your suit? Those kinds of things. And then in 2023, because I had been asking him all those questions, he called me and he goes, hey, are you finally ready to do this? And I was like, I don't know. I'm 32 or 33 years old at the time. And he goes, it doesn't matter how old you are. He's like, I double booked myself and I need somebody to come in and fill in for me. And so I will pay to fly you out. I will show you what I do for 2 days. And then I'll let you free to do the visit that he couldn't do. So that was probably July, August of that year. So I started looking at suits online. I bought one, and he flew me out to go do Santa Claus for him. I shouted at him for 2 days as his helper and learned from him, and he showed me what to do. And then the next 2 days, I was Santa Claus. And ever since then, now it's every year.
So my next question would be, how many years have you been portraying Santa? So now you just said 3 years?
Yeah, this will be my fourth season coming up, fourth full season. Yeah.
Okay. And was there a specific moment when you realized, I think you already said that you realized, I want to do this?
Yeah, I think it was kind of just always there, and it was just that little bit of a push from Santa Dan to be like, hey, it doesn't matter. You don't need to wait for your beard to actually be white. Mm-hmm. We have ways we can do that now. And he just gave me that little push to finally actually
But you
jump
dye
in
like
and do it.
every time you're gonna portray, or you dye permanently
So
for the entire season?
the first year or two I did it, I used temporary dye that would wash out. And that would take me about an hour to 2 hours to actually do the whole beard and hair. So now I actually go to my wife's hairstylist and she bleaches it usually twice a season. So I usually go at the beginning of November and the beginning of December just to get it touched up a second time. And so it's white for the whole Christmas season. And then at the end of the Christmas season, I shave it all off and start again.
And you dye your hair too?
My hair I do temporary because most of that's covered by the hat. And so that doesn't grow back quite as fast as the beard.
It's easier.
Yeah. So it's a little bit easier to do that.
And what do you enjoy most about being Santa?
I think that's a tough question because there's so much fun that comes from being Santa. But I think really it's the connection and the little moments, right? There's always something from almost every visit that I do, every event that I do, that there's, one kid that was really shy and didn't want to see Santa, and by the end of the visit, they're giving me a hug. Or you're able to have a conversation with someone on something that's not even related to Christmas, right? People trust Santa Claus. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, but you'll have conversations with, either kids or even adults that, they bring up something that you didn't even think about, and it's something personal or something you can help them with. Last year I got a call last minute, a little girl who's battling leukemia, and they were like, can you come to her house because she can't go out and see Santa? And you bring so much joy to them just by showing up that day, that like it's almost like addicting, like that feeling of knowing what people are going to be excited to see you or how happy you can make somebody.
You're doing something good to them. Yeah. That's very exciting. And how often do people ask if your beard is real?
All the time. All the time. I think it was a little more prevalent the first 2 years because, like I said, now I shave it off every year, so it doesn't quite get as long. But that first year, it was like down to here. Oh, yeah. And I think people didn't realize that you could just grow a beard like that. And so everybody goes, oh, is your beard real? And, they want to touch it and pull it. And
oh, my goodness.
Of course, I let them.
Even adults?
Yeah, adults. When I was in Seattle for that first time, there was this very nice old lady.
So you're from Seattle?
No,
you're from here.
I'm actually from Pennsylvania originally, but we live near Hartford now.
Oh.
Yeah, and this nice old lady, she couldn't believe it. She was like, "There's no way that's a real beard," and I was like, "It is. Go ahead and give it a pull."
That's funny.
Yeah.
And what's the funniest reaction you've ever gotten when people realize it's real?
It's pretty much the same reaction, is that once they give it that tug and they go, it's the face that they make, right? And I can't really replicate it because there's usually not like oh, it's real or something funny that they say, but it's always like you can see that moment of realization where they don't think that can be possible, and then doesn't come off.
You're not gonna take it off. Yeah, and also that's a very interesting question. Being such a tall Santa definitely makes you stand out. So do kids ever react to your height? Like any funny stories about it?
Not so much funny. That's actually, I found that being a tall Santa is kind of not as much of a good thing as I thought it was.
Really?
Yeah, it's very good when you're making like a grand entrance to a party or something like that because you have a lot of presents. But the kids that are kind of shy or scared of you to begin with, especially if you're not in a chair or you're sitting, right? I do a lot of sitting, so that kind of takes some of it. But I think the guy in the big red suit, when he's as big as I am, it kind of gives them a little bit more hesitancy. Mm-hmm. So I've learned to do a lot of kneeling, a lot of squatting down, get down to especially the smaller kids' level, try and be actually smaller than I am, so that way they don't feel as afraid. So it's, like I said, it's got some good stuff. You want to walk in and you go, ho, 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 and make a big entrance at some sort of big event. It's great. But when you're having those one-on-one moments, sometimes it can actually be a drawback.
Okay, yeah. I was surprised when I met you first time. Because you mentioned many times you were big, but I could imagine like big, like more maybe more weight.
More belly.
Yes, but not like that you're like tall. So yeah, it got me surprised and said, okay,
Yeah.
it's a big,
Yeah.
big Santa Claus.
Yeah, definitely the opposite of the night before Christmas. You know, people forget about the fact that he was a tiny little elf with 8 tiny reindeer. So, you know.
And what have children taught you?
That's so much, but I think the biggest thing is just being in the moment, right? So kids are so good at just being present in whatever they're doing. And, you know, shameless shout out to MiniTown, but like you see the kids come in and they just immediately go and they play and they do whatever. And then if, oh, Santa's there, oh, I want to go see Santa. I run over and I go see Santa. They don't care about the outside factors. They don't, you know, think about what the next thing is. They're like, this is what I'm in. This is where I'm living right now. And as adults, we lose some of that because we have so many responsibilities, right? We have things that we, you know, we're thinking about what's next. You know, oh, I got this project coming up at work or whatever it may be. And kids are just so good at just being right there in that moment. And whether it's a 5-minute visit at the mall or when I come to MiniTown and, you know, I can spend a little bit more time, you know, chasing the kids around or whatever that may be, they're just so present and they're there to see Santa. This is Santa time. I want to have that time with Santa. And they don't think about anything else. And I think we can all kind of learn from that of like, hey, be present in those moments.
Be you, be like, enjoy the moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't actually, as an adult, I think we don't enjoy as much as we should. It's hard, actually. And what surprises the most about the kids today?
That's an interesting question because I don't have kids myself. I'm a childless millennial. My wife and I run around and do whatever. But I have lots of nieces and nephews. And I think it's kind of the same thing. I think what I find is as adults, we're reliant on technology. We have our phones with us all the time. You know, I'm always answering emails for work, even when I'm not working, right? So there's always something kind of distracting us. And kids today are still able to play and have imagination and joy and wonder. And again, you see it at MiniTown. They go in and they play in the shop, they imagine, they do things. And you would think, hey, you know, with all the technology, you think they want to be on the iPad or be on the phone, and there's times for that. But I think it's very surprising to me that kids are still able to just do those imaginative things, even in a world where there's screens everywhere, there's so many distractions. They can still have that like kind of just imaginative play and joy that they can get through, which, you know, is interesting to me.
I'm not against screens at all. All my kids, I have 3 kids, and all of them use screens, and I don't care. But definitely at MiniTown, that's something that we thought about it, that we didn't want any like kind of screen, games, or any electronic to distract kids. Because I think this part of learning and pretending, it's so important to them. So that's definitely something that surprised me too, actually. And what do you think children really want when they come to meet Santa?
So I think there's so many kids, and I see so many kids, and they're all different. I think one of the big factors is their age. I think the littlest ones, you know, you think about like the Santa age is probably like 3 to 11, sometimes a little bit older till they start to really believe in Santa. And I think the littlest ones, they see you just kind of as like the friend that they know from the book or the movie or whatever, right? You see kids like my wife and I like to go to Disney, and we love to take all of our nieces and nephews, and they see Winnie the Pooh or they see Princess Jasmine or whoever that may be, and they're like, I know that person, and that person's my friend. And Santa's kind of the same way. So they just are excited to see you for who you are. And then as they get a little bit older, then they start to realize, you know, Christmas can be a little bit about presents. And then they start to be like, hey, I've got my list. I'm very excited to share my list with you so I can get what I want. And then once they start to get to that last age, they shift into more of that like questioning phase where they're trying to figure out, is Santa real? Are you the real Santa? You know, what do you know? How can I kind of test you? And that's always fun too, because, you know, you got to figure out where the kid is, you know, emotionally and mentally very quickly and say, hey, do I give them a real answer here? Do I tell them I'm not the real Santa, but Santa is real, I'm just representing him? Or do you try and keep the magic alive if they're very, unsure about it? So that's always fun. So I think that it changes, but I think, overall, they want to, they're there to see you for what Santa means. And that could be anything from, family traditions and, hey, when I see Santa, I remember what we did last year at Christmas time, to, just the overall joy of the season and what Santa kind of represents. So, there's kind of that like actual, like, what do they want to get? But also there's just that like next level, like emotional connection to the season or your family.
But I'm curious, when somebody asks you are the real Santa, what do you answer?
It depends on the situation. I try and get a read on it. And I try and guess, kind of their age and what situation I'm in. So usually, if it's a younger kid and they're just, are you the real Santa? It's pretty much just, yes, what do you think? Or it's, do you think I got this beard by not being the real Santa? Or something like that. When they're a little bit older and they're really asking like more prying questions, that's when you start to shift to things like, well, I'm not the Santa, I'm a Santa. And you can let them ask the questions, and you kind of hope that the parents also sort of help you out at that point, right? Because you're trying to take the cues from the parents that are saying, hey, it's okay. They kind of know. It's okay to let them know. Or, you'll have some parents that kind of get that like shocked face of like where you're going to go. And at that point you go, oh yeah,
you gotta be the Santa.
Yeah. Do you think, look at this suit, look at these buttons, this is the real. Mrs. Claus made this, come on now.
That's fun. That's very fun, actually. And what moment makes you smile every Christmas season?
Oh, this is easy. So obviously I told you about Santa Dan and going to Seattle. And once I decided to be Santa, my mom actually helps with a charity in Pennsylvania called Happy to Be Home. And she said, well, if you're gonna do Santa, I'm gonna use you to try and raise some money for the charity. So every year I drive down to Pennsylvania. Usually it's my first visit in November. I think this year we're actually doing it Thanksgiving weekend, but usually it's like the second or third weekend of November. And there's this girl there, and she comes every year. And if you ever go on my social media, you'll see a ton of videos of her. She comes up and she's just bouncing. She's so excited to see Santa. And because I see her every year, I usually know what she wanted. I remember what she wanted last Christmas. So like this year it was a makeup kit. Last year it was a for real monkey. So like I'm able to have that interaction, and she's just so excited to see me every year that like, and it's so early in the season, and when I have that moment, it's like, okay, she's here, Christmas is on, it's Christmas time, and that's like, hey, that's the point. I know I'm gonna get it. I know I'm gonna smile. There's usually gonna be a laugh or two, and we can go there. So that's kind of like the very specific answer. But it's usually just like I said earlier, the connections, right? When I can take a kid that's shy or doesn't want to see Santa, and especially in the situations where I do have the time, like when I come to MiniTown or I do a Santa breakfast where I'm not just seeing you for 5 minutes to take a picture and you move on, and I can like kind of navigate and say, oh, well, this kid's really shy, he doesn't want to come up, and hopefully by the end, I can get a high five or a hug or whatever that may be, and they stop to be so much afraid of Santa. So I really, those moments as well are really just like
a random question that it's not in the sketch, but if it's a bad day for you, like I don't know, something sad happened or something like that, but you need to go because you were hired to go, how, like, have ever happened, and how would you deal with that?
I call it the magic of the red suit. So Dave, like I said, I don't have kids. I don't really even like kids, to be honest. Like, I'm not, my wife and I made that choice a while ago. We're not kid people. I do like being around kids. I love my nieces and nephews. It's not like, oh, don't bring your kid near me kind of a thing, but they're not kind of my cup of tea. You put that red suit on, and between the responsibility of it, and I do believe there's just a magic around it, it just kind of pushes everything else away. You're Santa now. Santa has to be Santa. Whether you've been, last year I did, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say their name, but I'll say it because I'm not doing it again this year.
No,
Bass Pro Shops, right? Very much like a mall. People waiting in line, you come in, and by the last, you're there for 6 hours, you're sitting in the same chair, kids are grumpy, parents are grumpy, they've waited in line for 3 hours, right? Whatever it may be. kind of just like, but when the next kid walks up, no matter how tired, how draining the previous visit has been, they're just excited to see Santa. So whatever was happening in Dave's life just goes away because they're not seeing Dave. They're seeing Santa. And there's just kind of like this, and I can't explain it, but there's just this like magic that happens that like no matter how down I am or how upset my day was before, that next kid or that next person that comes up clicks you right back in.
Okay, so you just leave Dave and then you're just
Santa.
We'd love to hear some memorable moments. What's one visit you never forget?
So this is actually a good thing to come from Bass Pro Shop last year is I had a visit in Bass Pro Shop, right? So same as the mall, right? People wait in line, they come in, they get their picture. The staff is trying to get everybody in and out as quickly as possible. So you don't have as much time to connect with people. And this, I'm gonna call her a lady. I think she was maybe in her later teens or younger 20s. There were two lines for Bass Pro Shop, people who had registered and people who just walked up. And there was some confusion there, so this girl walks up with like another family. And I don't know that. I'm saying bye to the last people. I look over, there's a group that comes up. And the family goes to the girl, "Oh, can you wait? It's our turn." She didn't really know. So she goes back, just kind of walks away, kind of sad. And so get done with the family and it's finally her turn. She comes up, she has this letter for me. She says she's moving, she's doing better with her therapy, and like a very emotional type of letter. She reads the whole thing to me, and that's already like, you're like trying to hold back tears at this point because it's just very emotional. And she wants to take a picture with her phone to have for her. And the Bass Pro Shop crew is trying to get the Bass Pro Shop picture that you can buy. So they're kind of, trying to direct her to, hey, we got to get this picture, we got to get it done. And, I'm Santa. I'm kind of in charge, even though I'm not in charge. So I just sort of took the moment. She was fumbling with her phone. She was nervous. She couldn't get it. I was like, you don't have to listen to anybody else. I'm Santa Claus, right? We're going to get your picture, and then we're going to take their picture. I took her phone. I got it all set up. We took the selfie. And, I don't know what was going on in her world, where she's at, where she comes from. I don't remember the details, but I just know that like the moments like that, they can really make a difference. And those are the moments that you really need to be like hyper sensitive to. So even though, we got a long line, and I'm sorry to the people who were behind her, we needed to take those extra, 2-3 minutes and make sure that that visit went well. So that way, she doesn't walk away and, whatever.
What's the funniest thing a child has ever asked you?
So I don't think there's any like one specific funny moment that stands out to me. I mean, you get all the gamut of questions that you could even think of. But I think like just kind of a whole event that was funny was last year I had a woman call me up and she said, hey, the kids are in second grade. I think she said second grade. And, they're hearing some rumblings on the bus about maybe Santa isn't so real. And we think it would be great if you came to our Christmas party and, kind of reinvigorated the magic. And so I get there and it's a whole group of these kids in second grade, like I said, kind of that 9 to 10 to 12 range is where kids start to really question the legitimacy of Santa Claus. And I think there was 7 or 8 kids. And they just went to town. Can you do magic right now? How did you get here? Where's the sleigh? What's my name? What did I put you on? What did I put on my Christmas list? What's my elf's name?
My God.
Where was my elf yesterday when he went back to the North Pole? And you're just like trying to find creative ways to answer these questions that are, non-answers. Thankfully, the mom had given me a list of the names of the kids that would be there. Okay. So I could sort of, at least have that. But actually when it came to the sleigh question, I said, well, I can't take the sleigh right now. We're 3 weeks away from Christmas. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, I got to save the reindeer. They got to get across the world in one night. I can't be flying the reindeer down here just to come visit you. But my car is my work car, and it's registered in New York State. So this is in Connecticut near my house, and so it's got New York license plates on it. It's just a silver SUV, looks exactly like a rental car. So I said, if you look out the window right there, you'll see my rental car. And all the kids looked out the window. They were like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, see, look, it's the one with New York plates because I got it from JFK Airport. I took my little, I forget what I said. I think my truck or my Jeep or whatever down to Alaska, got on the airplane, and I came down to see you guys. And that was really good. They kind of loved that one.
Then you have to be very creative.
Yeah.
Very. And fast, right? Because
Yeah.
they don't wait. They don't want to wait for the
wait.
answer. They want
do not
to
wait.
know fast. And has there ever been a moment that was especially touching or emotional besides this lady at the Best Buy shop?
Yeah, I talk about it, I've said it like 3 or 4 times, but it's those connections. So last year I did Santa breakfast at a club in Hartford, and there was this girl that just did not want anything to do with me when she walked in. They kind of gave me like a throne, which was fun, nice big Santa throne, kind of in the middle of the room, and the tables were all around. And so once everybody got settled, I started kind of going table to table, and she did the old like, no. And so, okay, all right, I'm here for like 3 hours. We're gonna make something of this. And so I started playing like balloon keepy uppy with the other kids, and then we did like a gingerbread house building contest. So I was, helping the other kids do that, and I start to see her out of the corner of my eye, start to like peek over a little bit more, see what Santa was doing.
Like roughly?
I want to say she was like 5.
Okay.
4 or 5. She was a little one, but not like the toddler little. Like, I'm so bad at ages too. I'm very bad. I'm like, I think they're 4, and they're like, I'm 7. I'm like, oh, sorry, okay. But yeah, like I was just able to like, slowly. Then I started to be able to like. They went back to the table and got their like desserts or whatever, and I think that she had a sibling, or there was a whole group. So I think it was like grandpa and grandma and mom and dad and the brother. So, I go to like the brother's table, and I took his cookie, and she chuckled. She just started laughing that I stole her brother's cookie. And so by the end, they're getting ready to leave, and she runs up and finally gives me a hug. And it's like,
so cute.
Those moments are really the ones that you like keep with you, because you're like, hopefully now she loves Santa, and like whether she sees this Santa again or another Santa, hopefully she now has a positive relationship with Santa.
Yeah, hopefully. Is there a story that it still makes you laugh every time you think about it?
Yeah, this one, it makes me laugh in a kind of different way than most people, but everybody who was there for it laughed. So it's the same girl that I talked about earlier. This is this past year, so she's a little bit older, not quite as bouncy, and she comes up and she tells me what she wants, and I go, hey, did you get your monkey last year? She goes, yeah, I did. And she's going on and on and on about how she wants the makeup kit this year and this and that and the other thing. And as we were getting ready to say goodbye, there wasn't anybody else in line, so she kind of took a second, and her mom goes, oh, hey, tell Santa what else you're getting for Christmas this year. And she goes, my makeup kit? And mom goes, no, what's like the big thing you're gonna get? And she goes, a toy? No, tell Santa what else you're gonna get. She goes, and comes up with something else, and I can't remember exactly what she said. And mom finally goes, no, what are you going to be? And she goes, I don't know. And mom goes, you're gonna be a big sister.
I knew it.
And it's just like, she's got Santa brain. She wasn't even thinking about being a big sister, right? She was like, why would I tell Santa about that?
Yeah.
That's not important to Santa. And so that just, everybody laughed, and I think that's just,
That's cute.
Yeah.
Actually, that's very cute. And I knew it when he started saying, I was like, oh, it's a baby. It's a baby on the way. And since so many parents comes to MiniTown, and I hope they are listening MiniTown Talks right now, what advice would you give parents who want to create magical childhood memories?
I think overall the big like sort of underlying answer to that, and just from my experiences, is don't force anything, right? Whatever comes naturally, whatever everybody enjoys, don't make your kid come sit on my lap if they don't want to, right? That's going to create a negative association with me. yes, the crying picture is hilarious. I get it. But for the kid, you kind of force them into a place they didn't want to be. Let them stand to the side. Let them stand in front of me and take the picture, right? Let them just wave to me from far away. Let's create some positive associations, and then just keep it simple, right? So for me, some of my least favorite Christmas memories are the times that we tried to force Christmas to be, great grandma's Christmas, right? We'd have the whole family together, and my uncle was always in the military, so he had these very fond memories of the few Christmases he wants home where it was like we cooked the big prime rib and everybody had dinner together. And by the time, I was 5, 6 years old, and you're trying to do that, there's 6 grandkids, whatever, that just didn't work, right? And it was a great memory for him to have, and he wanted us all to be in that same bucket. He wanted us all to have that same memory as him, which I don't think is bad in and of itself to want to recreate that moment. But it just made it so stressful for everybody else, right? Come up with something new or simple, or, meet the kids where they're at and let that become the new memory. Take something that maybe you did, like something simple, like, okay, I watch Charlie Brown Christmas every year as a kid, but my kid doesn't love Charlie Brown Christmas. I can't get them to like it. Okay, maybe just change it a little bit. Maybe find a movie that they do like, that they do enjoy. Maybe it's Elf or something new, Christmas Chronicles, whatever. There's a dozen of them, right? And you just say, okay, well, let me find a movie that they will sit down and watch with me, or a show or a special. And keep that memory of Charlie Brown to yourself, or watch it, yourself. But make that new association of, hey, we watched this movie together, right? And let those traditions kind of change naturally, and do not force them. Because if you do, they stop becoming positive memories and they start becoming, chores.
More
and
traumatizing.
Right.
Yeah.
And we want to keep that, be flexible.
I get it. At home, it's Home Alone. We watched all of them during the entire Christmas season, many times. And do you think children remember the gifts more, or the time they spend with the family?
Oh, this is a trick question, because I know what you want me to say. I think it very depends on the kid and the age. So I think, you see those viral videos, and there is a time where kids are about the gifts. You see the viral videos of the kids opening the perfect present, right? And there is something to be said for a good gift and whatnot. But like, from my childhood, my brother and I wanted a PlayStation 2 the year the PlayStation 2 came out. And my dad took the time to wrap up a box that was exactly the same size as a PlayStation 2. And this was before you could easily buy like these gag gifts from Amazon. And he made it like with Play-Doh on the cover, and it looked legit, and he called it the PlayStation 2. And my brother and I open it, and we're just like,
Oh my goodness.
what is this? This is not what we wanted, right? And we did get the PlayStation, but what we remember is not the PlayStation. We remember that whole sequence of the PlayStation. And I'm not saying, do what my dad did and trick your kids, right? That's probably not something we want to do anymore, right? It's kind of traumatizing, and especially if you're not actually getting them a PlayStation 2 to go along with it, like that would be even worse. But like, I think what it is taking what goes with the gifts, the time around the gifts, whatever that is, right? In the moment, they're going to be all about the gifts, right? They're kids, right? They open it up, they're excited. Like I said, they're in the moment. They're like, this is what it is. But if you can make the time and the moments like that are around the gifts just as special, then right now, if you asked a kid last year, what do you remember from Christmas? They're going to tell you, oh, I remember getting my fur real monkey, right? But 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, they're going to forget about the monkey. They're going to remember what happened around that monkey.
That's true. That's very, very true. What are some simple traditions families can start that don't have to cost a lot of money?
So I think it's whatever works, right? I'm not necessarily the expert here. If I'm Santa Claus, I'm just a toy maker. Dave is, a childless millennial. So, my traditions are ordering Domino's on Christmas Eve, right? But I think that's kind of where I can start. And that's, just pick whatever your favorite moment is around the holidays. And it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be very expensive, extravagant. Oh, we go out, we go find the biggest tree we can. Start with something simple, right? If you have, an old, synthetic artificial tree that you've been using every year and you put up, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe take your favorite ornament and make sure that that one goes on the tree last and you all do it together and you all pick the spot together. Or you save it till Christmas Eve and you say, you put it on the shelf or something so it's still on display, and then you say, oh, on Christmas Eve we're gonna put that on the tree. Or simple things like just baking cookies together, right? Everybody can do that for the most part. I think there's, like I said, any sort of food tradition. Find some sort of non-Christmas time food or something that you all love, right? Like maybe you all love rigatoni, right? We don't want to have you don't think Christmas and rigatoni, but you're like, you know what? Every Christmas we'll do rigatoni on the side because that's something that makes it funny. And like I said, for us it's Domino's on Christmas Eve, right? We're not gonna bake a roast or whatever. We just order Domino's. That's something we do simply. Even simple things like, hey, especially with the young ones, when Santa comes, we all want to go to bed right at 10:10, right? Or what? That's probably too late for kids. So let's say it's 8:08, right? And you say, look, every Christmas Eve it's 8:08. That's when we got to go to bed to make it work. And it's just something silly. But then the next year they'll be like, oh, it's 8:08. We have to be in bed, right? Like there's little things that you can do like that all the time. That just whatever the moment is that like brings joy, just make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit more memorable, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be that you went out and bought a whole bunch of stuff. You took the time to make the cookies and, you do that. It's really easy to make simple traditions and just make those the core memories.
That's cool. Have you ever been hired to work like on the Christmas Eve or Christmas Day?
I have not yet. Santa Dan has told me about that. So he has a client that he started going to every Christmas Eve when he's been a Santa for 24 years, I think. So it was a baby or a toddler, and he started going on Christmas Eve. And they invited every year, Christmas Eve, he goes every year. And then the kids got to the point that they're like, we don't really like Santa, but he kept coming. And then it was sort of, it was hangout time with Dan, not so much Santa. Well, now those kids have kids of their own, and now he's back on the cycle. So I'm hoping at some point I can find, somebody that happens with me too, where it's, hey, Santa comes on Christmas Eve every night. My wife works at ESPN, so she's an editor on SportsCenter. So she works holidays regardless. So when she's like, Christmas for us is always weird because if Christmas falls on her work day, she has to be there. And Christmas is a big day for ESPN. They do the basketball, so she'll have to be there. So I have the time to do it usually, and our Christmas is usually something like I go meet her at work and we have dinner there together, or whatever it may be. But I'm hoping that at some point I'll have one of those, but I haven't yet.
So that's something that you're willing to do. Like if
Yeah.
somebody invited you for those days, you're gonna do it. That's cool. And from everything you've seen, what do you think matters most to children?
Food? No. I say that, my nephew's always looking for his next snack. But I think that does kind
Don't
of...
we all?
Yeah, exactly. I think that answer, though, sort of is kind of what we spoke about earlier. Like, kids are so good at living in the moment, which is why, like, their next snack is so important to them, right? I think what means to most of them is whatever's right in front of them. And that's super cool. It's actually a really good thing because they can be so present in whatever that moment is. And if that is the snack, then that's what they're about, right? And so I just think that, especially from my perspective, what means the most to kids as Santa, and you see it, like I said, with the little girl who just didn't even think about the fact that she was going to be a big sister because she was in that Santa moment. And so I think it's hard to say, hey, what means the most to kids like right now, because they're being so hyper present in whatever they're doing that they don't think about the rest of it. And I think that's really cool, and we can use that. So it's about, letting them have those moments and be in those moments that they need to be in, because that's what's going to drive them to be present in the future. So I know that's kind of not really answering the question, because I don't really have a good answer for philosophically what means the most to kids, but I think that kind of gets to what I see from my end.
And what does Christmas mean to you personally?
Oof. Fires burning low, lots of mistletoe, lots of joy and carols. Everywhere we go, all these things and more. That's what Christmas means to me. No, that's not. That's the song. Christmas to me is just it's everything. It's so cool. It's such a time of year where, it's December, especially up here in Connecticut. It's cold. Usually it's not cold enough to be snowing, so it's raining and it's gross out. And yet there's still just kind of that overall magic of the season that still sets in. Mm-hmm. And the world we live in, there's so much going on between technology and AI and political things, and yet during that Christmas season, we all still find a way to be just that little bit happier. Mm-hmm. And even through the stress and people put a lot of emphasis on Christmas, I find that the less emphasis you put on the day of Christmas itself, the better the rest of Christmas is. If you overhype Christmas Day, the rest of the season becomes a letdown, right? Mm-hmm. Let the day be the day. Like I said, my wife and I, we might wake up, open presents together, take a picture with the dog, and then she goes to work. Christmas Day is not the most important. It's the whole season. And what other time of year do you do something like a simple chore, like going to the post office to mail your presents or your Christmas cards, and you're waiting in the longest line because everybody else is doing the same thing. And normally you'd be like, this is miserable, why am I here? I don't want to do it. But then some little girl starts singing Jingle Bells, and everybody in the post office joins in, and it's like a Christmas movie, right? And that's a true story. That actually happened to me. So I see it, and I think it's that just overall season of kind of happiness and caring and taking that little extra second. And there's so many movies that tell you, keep that all year round, and we don't really do a good job of it, but you do feel it when it comes back to that time of year. And I think that feeling is just the best part of Christmas.
That's great. Why do you think the tradition of Santa Claus has lasted for so many generations?
I think just because of what Santa Claus means. So when I found out that there wasn't actually a real Santa Claus, disclaimer, kids, there is a Santa Claus. If you're listening with mom, there's definitely a Santa Claus. It's not me, maybe, but okay, anyway. But I think when I found out, what my grandma told me at the time was that, no, there's not a Santa Claus. There's not a guy that goes around and can magically make it to every house in one day. But there's millions of Santa Clauses. Anybody who has that spirit of giving, anybody who willfully gives and it's not a chore to them, they're Santa Claus. They're the embodiment of Santa Claus and what Santa Claus means. And that spirit, we all know that we should do it a little bit more, right? Because when we do it right and we give, and it's not just an obligation, or we actually take the time to help someone else, and it's just, we feel good when we get done with it. Mm-hmm. And we know that we should try and do it more, and it's very hard. But that spirit, everybody knows that feeling. And if Santa Claus is the representation of that, and that's the way we look at him, that's why he stays, because we all want to feel that way. Mm-hmm. And so Santa can be the thing we look to and we say, ooh, I know that Santa isn't real, but I know the feeling of being Santa. Mm-hmm. And that's what allows him to stay and still be prevalent.
Yeah. And what do you hope every child feels when they meet Santa?
I think the simple answer is joy. And joy is different than happiness. And if you go online and you Google it, it's something like happiness is external and it's fleeting and it's caused by something, and joy comes from within, I think is how they differentiate the two. So yeah, I feel good if I make a kid happy because I'm there. But what I really want is I want them to associate me with the other stuff, right? Whether that's their times that they spend with family at Christmas time, or, you know, hey, even if it is that present that you got, that like, hey, I remember that, you know, Santa got me this and whatever, that it's continual and it builds. So when they see me, they're actually joyful, and it's connecting with not just me, the character, but their whole memory, their whole, like, everything good that is in their life kind of connects with that. So, you know, whether I'm triggering a specific memory or just kind of the feeling of togetherness that they get, that's what I want.
Let's do quick 5 questions now and have a little fun. So, you prefer cookies or brownies?
Cookies.
Hot chocolate or coffee?
Hot chocolate for me.
Favorite Christmas movie?
Ooh, there's 2, but I'm gonna make a snap decision, and I'm gonna say it's A Christmas Carol, and it's the Patrick Stewart version.
Favorite Christmas song?
The Christmas song.
Favorite Christmas cookie?
I'm a chocolate chip cookie guy.
Snow or sunshine?
Snow for me.
Real Christmas tree or artificial?
Whatever works. I have both. But I think if I had to pick one, I'm gonna say real, just because of the smell.
Okay. Favorite Christmas tradition?
Oof. I'm gonna say it's, it could be a dozen, but I'm gonna say it's the year I met my wife. Unfortunately, her father had passed away. So she spent that first Christmas Eve with her family. My brother came over to hang out with me, and we watched the movie the night before. And my wife then said, "Oh, you guys watched that without me?" And that has become our Christmas Eve tradition. So every year before we go to bed, we watch the night before, we quote it, you know, there's stupid things. And it's an adult movie, so don't show it to your kids, but like the Christmas present, and they do this, and it doesn't make any sense because we're in the present. And my wife and I will do that all year long.
It became something between you two.
Yeah.
If the North Pole had one coffee shop, what would your go-to drink be?
Ooh. Santa Dave doesn't really drink coffee. So I think it's gonna be, and I love it when it's done right, and it's a problem when it's done poorly, but peppermint hot chocolate. If peppermint hot chocolate is done right, I think it's the best thing ever, especially in the winter. But if you go to like Cumberland Farms, don't get their peppermint hot chocolate.
Okay, Santa, and before we wrap up, if you could leave every parent listening with one message, what would it be?
Ooh, I'm going to take this time to get a little personal, and it kind of plays into some of the things that we talked about, right? So we had the moment where the little girl forgot that she, you know, was going to be a big sister, which is funny in that context. But in Bass Pro Shops, we had one where the people waited and they got to the front of the line before I went on break, and they had me give Santa a gift, or Santa give her a gift, and the teacher had said, you know, I'm going to be a big sister, and they had the ultrasound and they wanted to take a picture. And there's a time and place for that, but it's not there. And there's 2 reasons that I say that. One is your kid. She was just so bewildered. She didn't know what it meant. She was there to see Santa and tell Santa what she wanted for Christmas and get her picture with Santa and give Santa a hug. And suddenly she's got this thing, and grandma's cheering and everybody's so happy, and even the photographers are like, oh, this is so exciting. The kid wasn't. That wasn't that moment for them. That wasn't when they wanted to learn about it. They didn't know what was going on. And the second fact of it is, especially in those situations where there's a line and suddenly Santa's giving a gift to the girl in front of you, and the next girl in line is going, why doesn't Santa have a gift for me? And I know you did it from the right place, right? You wanted it to be special, and you thought, you know, she loves Santa, it'll be great, Santa. From Santa's side and from her side, it wasn't really. And I'm not saying you can't do that at all, right? There's times, you know, I can be hired privately, right? Or even at MiniTown where I'm there for 3 hours and I'm just free. And they could go back and have, you know, we could do the announcement and then she can still have time to sit with Santa and do the normal Santa stuff. Or we do the normal Santa stuff first so she has that moment and now she's a little less Santa focused, red suit focused, and then we can come back and then you can go, oh, hey, Santa wanted to tell you something too, he forgot. Now it's 2 separate instances. And I think things like, you know, for parents, it's really like those kinds of announcements, but just overall too, it's you know, if you're gonna announce your wedding or your engagement or stuff, that's not the right time to do it. Let's work together to find a time and do it. And I think that just kind of goes into the overall, you know, being present in the moment that we've been continually talking about, that I see every day that I'm Santa Claus. When you're with your kids, whether it's Santa Claus or not, and I know I'm not a parent, so maybe I'm just looking at it from the outside view, but I think we just have to find the ways to let them be present. Let them have their moments. And, you know, I know sometimes you got to get them out the door and they're in the middle of something and you're like, we can't do this right now. And I know I've been there with my nieces and nephews, but like, how can we compromise? How can we let them have those moments? Because those moments, that time that they're super present, super into something, grow into the memories that they have later.
That's great. That's a great advice. And if you could leave every child with one Christmas wish, not a present, but a wish, what would be?
That's so easy. And that's, don't lose your sense of joy. I wish every child would keep that sense of wonderment and fascination with whatever it is that they're into. You know, we grow up and we have outside pressures and we start to lose those things. You know, we start to feel like, especially as they get, you know, from that real young age, and even once they start getting into school, you know, the other kids are saying, hey, that's not cool. Don't do that. That's not fun. You know, you're a boy, you shouldn't be into that. You're a girl, you shouldn't be into that. It's so easy to be like, but this brings me joy, but because other people are telling me it shouldn't, it stops. You know, I'm 36 years old. Last night, I slept with a Pokemon stuffy, right? Like, I like sleeping with the stuffy. It makes me feel comfortable. And people will tell you, as a 36-year-old man, you're a man-child, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't let people tell you that. And I really hope that children can grow and keep that and not lose it as they start to get those things. And so that would be my Christmas wish, is that they keep that through their whole life.
That's awesome, Dave. Thank you so much for being here, for being so open. It was a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you for having
All
me.
these stories that you told me, it's very, some of them it's emotional actually even for me.
Yeah.
So it's very, very nice, very cool to see everything from the Santa perspective. It's like very different from parents or business owner or any other perspective. So I do work with kids too. I see a lot of things that you're talking about. I can see there. But definitely hearing you talking about it, like, it's wonderful. It was very nice. It was a pleasure. And Santa Dave is going to be at MiniTown December 12th and December 19th,
Yes, I will.
9 to 1. So you guys can already book an open play for those days already. It's already open. You guys can book. Don't miss it. Last year he was there. It was so fun. We enjoyed a lot. I hope he enjoyed too. He made very nice videos there. Yeah, so we are very looking forward to having you at MiniTown again.
Come back.
And thank you so much. I hope
Of
you're enjoying the
course.
summer. I know it's not your favorite season, but I hope you're enjoying the summer. It's almost done.
Almost over. I did have some fun at my friend's pool last night, so more videos to come from Santa pool time, which
Okay,
is fun.
it's do you are you making like what do you call Christmas on July
Yes.
appearances? Are you working
I had a
on?
couple of people reach out. Nothing went through, but I am available if you do want to do a Christmas in July. I also will be getting, hopefully this fall, but definitely by next spring, a sort of summery Santa outfit that, you know, if you have events and you just want Santa to show up for any reason, Santa's available all year round. But
So if you're a business owner too and you wanna have Santa around, now you know. Contact Santa Dave. You're not gonna regret. All right, Santa, thank you so much.
thank you.